The real question.
The real question.
The real question.
So there couldn't be a more timely question than the federal budget, and in particular what changes to negative gearing and obviously capital gains tax means to the everyday Australian investors right now. Welcome to The Real Question with UFinancial, where we unpack the questions behind finance, business, property and community. I'm Leigh Deledio. I'm joined by Paul Nelson. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Leigh. How are you?
Good, thank you. Are you excited as I am for our first ever podcast?
Yeah, nervous and excited. It's pretty cool just to do something a little bit different and voice our opinions. I'm looking forward to unpacking what we're about to.
Yeah, me too. So each episode, we want to tackle one question, and hence the real question, with voices not only inside the UFinancial network, but also the broader community. So I guess today's question, and it's topical, but the budget's just dropped. There's a lot of noise around negative gearing and CGT, and I guess the real question we want to sort of unpack today is, what does it actually mean? What does it mean for investors? What does it mean for borrowing capacity? And in particular, probably also what it means for the property market right now. So I guess we should probably stay away from our political views because that'll go down another complete podcast, and we could turn a 15-minute segment into about an hour. But I think first things first, what's your understanding of, Paul, all these changes?
Yeah, and the changes are still proposed. Let's not forget that either at the same time. They've still got to go through Parliament, so they haven't come through. We're talking about a hypothetical, aren't we, that's going to come through. Given they've got majority seat, more than likely it's going to, but it's still coming through. As of the board meeting on the 12th of May 2026, that negative gearing is going to change completely. It's the first time in a long time that change has occurred. Existing investors and property holders now get to keep the negative gearing benefit fully, completely, until they sell the property. It's grandfathered, which is great. There's a 12-month window that if you purchase from now till 1st of July 2027, you can still access the same rules and legislation. Post moving forward, after 1 July 2027, it's going to be removed. There's not going to be any negative gearing benefit. But interestingly enough, depreciation, we can still claim back. So it's not a negative gearing benefit, but it's counted. We can use it for future rental income to offset, or you can use that loss carried forward and decrease our capital gains tax.
So you're telling me it's not all negative?
I don't think so, mate. No, it's certainly not. And I think the big thing is just understanding it, and that's really, really important. Our accountants are going to be more important than probably ever before, but educating ourselves as individual, I think, is super important. Knowledge is power. I've said it day one. It's still exactly the same. Understanding it is crucial, or speaking to someone that does or got a little bit of it, but accountants are going to play a really big role, and the federal budget's no doubt made their job really hectic from now.
Well, I guess that leads into sort of why is it so controversial?
As
Australian. Basically.
Yeah, correct. We haven't had those tax changes, have we, for such a long time? And let's not forget at the start, they got in saying negative gearing and those CGT benefits, all the rest, aren't going to change. They're 2 years in term and it's changed. So it's a lie, basically, isn't it? It's full bore, but it is what it is at the time. You've got to pivot, you've got to change, you've got to adapt and adjust to everything. And this is one of those things where we've got to adapt and change. Understanding it's really important. I think anyone that's got an existing investment property right now has got a little gold nugget. But moving forward as well, given what I've just said with depreciation, you can still use, you can offset CPI with the CGT, etc. I still think there's going to be benefit there in buying an existing place if you get the right property. Clearly, it's going to hold key still, but new builds, anything that you buy a block of land and build a new place, all the negative gearing is still exactly the same.
Well, I guess that's the thing, negative gearing just restricted to new properties only. I think there's a lot to sort of unpack with that as well. What is deemed as new?
I was reading just the other day that something the government are thinking about is if you knock down an existing place and build a new place as an investment, it still may not be deemed as a new build because it's not increasing the population. You've got to actually increase it. So if you knock down your place and build two places,
increases supply.
It increases the supply, and then it will become the negative gearing benefit moving forward. But if you just knock down and build a brand new investment property and rent it out, it's not classified as a new build and may not have that negative gearing / CGT grandfathered.
Yeah. So we've got new properties only. We've got existing assets are obviously, protected, which is great. And that was from, the 12th of May going forward. I guess CGT, the discount is gone, the 50% discount. So what do you think of the impact of that?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a lasting impact, isn't it? I don't know or understand the new measure exactly. It's grandfathered again, so up to the 12th of May 26. Anything prior to that CGT is still the 50% discount.
Yep.
Or you can have the new CPI measure as well. So you can have both. So you got a bit of leverage both ways, which is great. Obviously, we've got the 12-month, like a cooling off period, quarantined area or whatever it is, till the 1st of July 27. Post that, we then come under the new CPI. So, we add the CPI. So the higher the CPI, the lower the capital gains tax you'll pay, which seems a little bit crazy. So it's good for people who are selling a higher rate, higher CPI, compared to a lower CPI margin. But again, the accrued losses from depreciation and property costs can offset the CGT as well. So unpacking it, understanding it, and making an informed, educated decision before you sell your place, I think is going to be absolute paramount. Knowledge is power, and people who understand it, I think, will do really, really well, even with the new legislation coming in place. I think it's still going to be pretty powerful. I think investing in Australia is still going to be pretty good as long as people understand it.
Oh, absolutely. I think the other standout from that is there's been a policy shift already. One lender in particular, Macquarie, they've already changed their credit policy.
Yeah.
And these changes are, that legislation hasn't even passed, and we've already got one that's gone out there. So I guess will others follow?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? I mean, the policy change impacted. I had a client just the other day going, Paul, I'm looking to buy an investment property. If these changes come through, what does it change? And Macquarie shifted it that morning, and I went, let me put it into the calculator to see. It decreased their borrowing power from about $900K to buy an investment property, just a normal couple, kids, good incomes, from $900K down to $650K to be able to buy the investment.
Wow.
So it's clearly going to have an impact.
Massive.
But again, if you buy a block of land and build, they can borrow $900K. So again, it's maybe getting that land and build correct instead of you can still buy an existing place, borrow wise $650 if you've got cash to add on the top. I think some of the banks, to answer your question, will have to adapt the proposed change. It's weird that a bank would adapt the change without the legislation actually going forward. It's like a horse in the cart sort of scenario. Really interesting. Are they the forefront leaders and on the front foot? Probably. But everything grandfathered too, Leigh. Let's not forget everything grandfathered, all the negative gearing benefits and all that stay in place, which means their borrowing capacity does not change one little bit. It's only if you're going to buy an existing property and the negative gearing is not in place that it will have an impact on that servicing part.
What's your thoughts then around the lenders perhaps approaching it with even more cautionary measures and looking at maybe not even factoring in the grandfather negative gearing in future?
Yeah, correct. They might. Of course, they clearly can.
Banks have been known to be cautionary before. So.
Yeah, correct. They have been cautioned, but let's not forget the banks are in the business of lending. Yeah. That's their business. Yes, so policy changes and credit policies change all the time to make sure that they're still lending, that they stay competitive with everyone else as well. So I personally think that they will adapt. I hope they adapt a similar change to what Macquarie have. It makes sense. And it goes by the legislation as well, that if you've got the negative gearing benefit still applicable to your investment property, then you can still apply it in the servicing and you move on exactly the same. Any new property that doesn't have it, then you can't use it. So it's common sense approach. And I hope that stays, and I hope other banks adapt a similar perspective, but they'll come out and change internally within their policy something else that I think will still make it prevalent to be able to borrow.
Yeah. And I think just for the everyday punter, it's basically, where we've got negative gearing, you've got losses, basically reduce your tax, and obviously then it boosts borrowing capacity.
Correct.
So I think, putting that aside, I think Macquarie, they just want to basically, or the lenders still want to make sure that you can still afford loans once those benefits have been reduced, I guess.
Correct. And we're
Yeah.
talking the investors as well,
Yeah.
that there's no difference in borrowing capacity for people who are buying an owner-occupied property.
Yeah.
So that still carries on exactly the same. The government want more owner-occupied properties than the first home buyers, especially. That's where they're targeting all this towards.
Yeah.
So that still doesn't change. And there's some amazing government schemes out there with the 5% deposit scheme and the Help to Buy scheme as well. Understanding those and doing those, which I've had clients take up, which is pretty cool. We're getting some really good results in that first home buyer space that they want. The servicing only impacts the investors at this stage. So it's really paramount to catch up and make sure that, you understand the servicing, understanding the impacts. Again, it's that knowledge and forefront before you jump in and buy it. Let's see what it looks like. Let's unpack it, pull it apart, go through it all, understand and explain the costs and what they can borrow, and then let's move forward.
Absolutely. I think so. I guess that leads into the next question. And are investors now holding? Do you think what effect will that have on house prices?
Gee, it's a great question, isn't it? And we could spend a whole podcast on this.
Probably.
I'm like anyone else. I love property, and I know you're exactly the same. That's why we do what we do. We could talk about this for hours. I think the investor that has got an existing dwelling, if they understand it correctly, I personally think that they'll hold. And it's just my personal view, not
Absolutely.
anyone else's. It's just mine. I was talking about that little gold nugget before that they've got. I think they've now got a little gold nugget that if they can afford to hang on to it in longer term, that they're going to benefit from it. Those that may not understand it or may be sick of the land tax introduction, they may be also sick of now the negative gearing, the CGT, and just going, hey, look, I'm done. Maybe there's some other investment strategy I can undertake. They will still sell. That's natural attrition as well too at the same time. So I think understanding it to make an informed, educated decision, because every couple or person or individual is going to be completely separate to the next person.
Yeah.
It depends on their wealth goals and strategies that they want to achieve to be able to build and create that further wealth, doesn't it? So it's going to be different for everyone. But
I think from the supply point of view, there's going to be some downward pressure on house prices.
I totally agree.
The established houses, we only have a look in Geelong and surrounds. The established market is really now tailored towards the first home buyer market, or owner occupier.
Yep. It's still pretty strong. I'm knowing a lot of buyers, agents and advocates. There was a property just on the weekend that there was 3 or 4 buyers, agents actually there bidding on a place to buy the place. So clearly, Victoria's not going to stay dormant forever. There is a downward pressure, 100%, with not only the land tax that came in that increased a mass amount of supply, and eventually that natural attrition absorbed it. This may have the similar impact where the supply may increase again. People may get out of their investment properties through lack of understanding or their own personal situation or whatever it'll be.
Reactionary, yeah.
Correct. And once that is absorbed again, the second biggest state by population, being Victoria behind New South Wales, is not going to stay the second slowest capital growth in the housing market forever. We haven't been there. We have in the last few years due to interest rates and government legislation changes. That's not going to continue. So, yeah, there may be downward pressure for a period of time, but I think the upside and the flip side, when you look at the overall demographic on it, I think is pretty positive.
Well, it's hard to measure it from a weekend, point of view, because in our region, Geelong, or of regional Victoria, there's most of the house sales aren't necessarily auctions. They're more the private sales sort of mentality. But if we look at Sydney, for example, Sydney on the weekend had a massive downturn from clearance rates, dropping down to 30% on the like. So
big decrease, isn't it?
I probably can't measure that here because we don't, we're not able to sort of get a good handle on the clearance rates. But, if I talk to sort of some of the local agents, we see that there's basically, there's more caution in the market, and obviously investors are starting to pull back. And then obviously they'll have to pivot into considering we are now an investor in the market. What are we investing in? And may not necessarily be property, but if it is property, it's obviously going to be more swayed towards new homes.
Yeah, and that's the way the government want us. They want us to be able to build new homes, investor part side to increase and keep up with the construction industry. That's prevalent. It employs, I don't know how many people, but a mass population within Australia. So, and that's going to continue. other states are growing really well, really rapidly, and Victoria's just a little bit of a lag, but that will catch up. Just down the road in Armstrong Creek, massive development, yet alone the Lewis, the Leopold, Lara, etc., to Bannockburn, etc., like mass population growth we've had here inside of 10 years, and that will only continue because of the amazing infrastructure we have here in Geelong. It's certainly a city that people look at from an investment perspective, 100%. There's different pockets, of course, which is where the buyers agents and advocates come in to be able to help and assist and pull that all apart. So, yeah, I think there will be a downward pressure initially on the housing market, but I can see the flip side. When we're looking at this in 5 years or so, it'll be like GFC, it'll be a blip in the ocean, and you'll just go, gee, what an opportunity it is right now to consider the option to be able to get in.
If we think of then the first home buyer market, because obviously it's sort of set out also to try and sort of appease the first home buyer. I mean, we know in our industry, being in the finance industry, collectively we've probably got 50 years experience, but that first home buyers, it's still very difficult because of house price, to raise that deposit. Now, I think, the flow and effect is will rent increase and that affordability. So from a tenant's perspective, moving into that first home buyer market, it's going to have higher rent prices, possibly there's a push there. And then, still being able to try and put together a deposit to actually buy. So what's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Obviously, if they're paying more rent, then they're going to be able to save less naturally. I think you're 100% and alluded to the answer in it as well, that certainly rents will increase. The government, want it to increase by $1 or $2 in their budget. I mean, you don't need to be Captain Einstein to work out that due to everything that's come into place, if there's less properties available to people who want to rent, guess what rent's going to do? Yep. I've been saying that for a couple of years now. They're actually doing the negative of what they want to achieve, whether it's through knowledge, I don't know, but to me it seems really obvious what they've done is only actually increase the rents, and that'll flow through, unfortunately, which is sad. The first home buyers, there's some amazing government schemes, and there's some with one-day policies and stuff like that that are really, really good, that can get the people into the market quicker than what they actually think. So sitting down and talking to us is going to be even more paramount to understand it. Saving for a deposit, budgeting. Been talking budgeting for 26 years since I was just coming to the industry in 99. It's still prevalent now. I love going to the schools to teach education and budgeting and money and that sort of side of it. It's the biggest conversation I have with a client. Interest rate's important, the bank's super important, the product's super important, all the offsets and redraws and bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the budgeting piece within that is far more paramount, so that clients can pay off the loan quicker, understand the dollars and set up automation within their budgeting, and just love it and grow. And some of the stuff we've seen, as you know, is really cool. It's unreal. And I even had a conversation last night.
It's an unfortunate thing about the generation, though. They're probably more about spending than they are budgeting. So, I think they're just leaning on mum and dad's equity to probably...
A little bit more than clearly what it used to. We spoke about that generational wealth. It's the first time we've had generational wealth. And they do leverage off mum and dad probably more than what have to, but at the same time, they have to as well with the cost of living increasing. Our CPI tells its own story, doesn't it? So, I think saving is still paramount. I think it's understanding it, and it's having I call it a barbecue conversation or a tea time conversation from parents to kids, teaching, helping, understanding, the cost of a dollar, how to save, setting up the right accounts and the strategies to be able to understand it is absolute paramount, in my opinion, solely. So I think the ability to be able to save is harder. And if rents increase, then yes, it's going to take longer to be able to do it. There's some great government schemes available, and old school mum and dad going guarantor that is still available. It's still there. And they're completely different. The guarantor proposal to the 5% deposit scheme to the help to buy scheme, they're all similar. They're all caps inside it still. Some have an income cap, some don't. Some have a max purchase price, some don't. So it's really unpacking it all to see what and how quickly we can get that first home buyer into the market. So as I said before and alluded, I think there's a great opportunity to be able to get into the market.
Yes. So I guess, what should customers be doing right now, even just before bank policy changes? Is there anything you think that you foresee that, you should be doing apart from talking to the obvious, the right, the finance specialist, and in particular yourself or others inside
Thanks,
the
mate.
UFinancial network. But yeah, what do you think in terms of now?
Yeah, I think as you can tell by my talking, I think education and understanding is really, really important. It's always been important. It's a big buzzword in our industry, but it's been around for 10, 15 years, and the ones that have been good at it have been really successful. It's a big buzzword now in our industry, which it is what it is. But educating our clients around that piece has been paramount since day dot. Yeah, what's your thoughts on it? You're really good in this space. I know that.
Well, I think it's seeking the right advice. It's more, there's people that actually want to go out and actually educate themselves. And then there's people that just want to rely on a specialist. So you've got two people. So it's about where you find the information, because we're in an age at the moment where you get information from absolutely everywhere. So the source is most important. So it's actually making sure that where you're getting your source of information is actually the right one.
So great.
Because there are people that sell really good investment property strategies, and there's some people that probably sell some pretty poor investment property strategies. So, and it's the same in terms of a first home buyer, is understanding what options you have available and what, from a cost standpoint, will be more affordable from a cash flow standpoint as well as a deposit standpoint. So I think, from now, I think before even policies changing around negative gearing, that if people are actually wanting access for more money, is to just, seek the right advice, and make sure that where you're getting your source of information is actually categorically correct.
Comes back to that opportunity too, doesn't it? Yeah. And the first time buyers to be able to get in is understanding what it looks like. And I still encourage mum or dad or parent or someone else to be able to come with the younger first home buyers as well, to sit in the meeting and just listen and go through it, so that when they get home, they can have those great tea time conversations. What was Paul talking about? I print it all up. I give them all the information. But it's paramount, and often we meet 2 or 3 times just to keep going through it, so we're on the same page, and they become really good students of education within that as well, and go on their own trajectory to be able to achieve what it is they're doing. But I love dealing with first home buyers like everyone else. They're great, they're raw, but some come in super knowledgeable. Others, you're correct, 100%, not as much, but going through the journey and talking to the right person to be able to achieve what they want is absolute paramount. And it's probably more paramount now in the current environment we're in than maybe what it was a little bit before. It was still important, but it's even more important now, and for investors as well. Understanding it, releasing equity for, whatever wealth creation you've got moving forward may be paramount to look and consider now before the changes potentially proposed come through Parliament may be a great option as well. But sitting down, talking to someone that knows what they're doing and talking about structurally and setting it all up correctly right now, great opportunity.
It's paramount, yeah. I think that more importantly also for first-time investors or even second-time investors is that there's going to be a massive sort of push towards trying to benefit from negative gearing benefits. And in particular, that's going to push them into, say, the house and land, so more of a construction environment, or even off the plan apartments, and that the flavour could come back because of those negative gearing benefits. So I think it's important for customers to understand what it is. In an off the plan environment, you've got to make a deposit and then wait. The same with land, you've got to hold the land without any return for some time before, that gets to construction phase. And then through construction phase, you've got progress payments, and obviously there's interest that's still charged that whole time. So you got to be able to know and navigate the way to cash flow that. So it's 100%. Important with those negative gearing changes, and that if it's only on you, that if that's your flavour, you've got to just make sure you understand and make those educated decisions. So
and that's the difference between the existing and the new. The time frame for the land to be able to title, the build costs, the interest you've got to pay whilst it's being built as each stage increases. And then you've still got to finish it. You've still got to landscape it, fence it, finish the house, whatever else you're going to put inside. So it's budgeting and allocating those sort of funds and making sure they're available to be able to go through and understand the difference between the two. Education's key, 100%.
Absolutely. And I think we've covered off, more than enough. I guess it's a controversial issue. And I think that's because we talked about the great Australian dream. It's either to buy a home or buy an investment, or buy an home and then buy an investment. And everyone's always extremely encouraged by that, because they think that they can get to retirement time or period and be able to live off the rental income, or use the equity to size and the like. So I think, the thing is, in this is, I think we're going to see reduced investor demand in the established market. I've made some notes on investor, we're going to have increased rents. I think, however, that probably will be great for an investor, a landlord, but not so good for the tenant.
Could be that little gold nugget, couldn't I, that I was talking about? It could be great for investors. And I know that some are increasing their rent now already by the maximum they're allowed to, 10% or whatever the market is. So,
And absolutely. So they'll benefit. And then, property values probably in the established space are likely to decline. But obviously, the small everyday punter that's just looking to invest in established market at the moment, due to the negative gearing change, is probably going to be a little discouraged.
Yep. I think there's downward pressure. We said that, but I think the upside, especially in Victoria, it's so cheap compared to other states.
Yeah.
So cheap compared to other states. And the Brisbane Olympics is still, 4 years away? Hang on to your hat sort of stuff up there. We're still so cheap compared to bang for buck what we can actually get. And the fancy buzzword now, they've called it a rent vest strategy, that we've done for years. I love it. It worked great for us. It's now people coming in going, hey, what's this rent vest stuff? It's an amazing conversation, and understanding all that sort of stuff, what it looks like, is paramount. We're in a vastly new era than what we've never been in before, Leigh. The financial nerd in me can't wait for it to unpack and see what actually happens. Pretty crazy. I loved how it unpacked through COVID.
Yeah.
I can't wait for it to do it again. It's going to be hopefully a once in a generational type thing that we get to experience. No one wants to experience COVID ever again.
No,
that was horrific. And we didn't do it half as bad as what Melbourne did. So,
of course.
It's interesting times. Can't wait to see it unpack, but getting the right advice is going to be more paramount than ever before.
Well, great. Thanks, Paul. That's the real question with UFinancial. We'll be obviously bringing more questions and conversations like this with people across, finance, business, property, and the community. If you've got a question, you want us to unpack it, let us know.
Let's do it. Thanks. Take care.